GB News.
A very busy show tonight. In my big opinion, I'll be dealing with Angela Rayner's growler, Labour and a week of lies. In the big question, with the age of marriage being raised to 18, is tying the knot still a good idea? We'll debate that live on the show with the Hamiltons, Neil and Christine. And tackling all of the big news stories of the day and reacting to Sunday's papers, my amazing panel of political commentator Alice Grant, broadcaster and presenter Ben Ofwedu, and best-selling author and Sun columnist Tony Parsons. All of that and more after the headlines with Paula Middlehurst.
Marcus, thank you. And the top stories this hour. Ukraine's President Zelensky says the first group of 100 civilians evacuated from Mariupol's Azovstal steelworks will arrive on Monday. A spokesperson for the United Nations said Operation Safe Passage is currently being coordinated between Kyiv and Moscow. Meanwhile, President Zelensky spoke of the evacuations after weeks of turmoil.
There was not a day that we did not try to find a solution that would save our people. Today, for the first time in all the days of the war, this vital corridor has started working. For the first time, there were 2 days of ceasefire in this area. We managed to take out more than 100 civilians, women and children.
Meanwhile, the US Speaker of the House says America will stand with Ukraine until the war is won against Russia. Nancy Pelosi made the comments after meeting with President Zelensky in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. She's the highest-ranking US official to visit the country since Russia launched its offensive in February.
Do not be bullied by bullies. If they're making threats, you cannot back down. That's my view of it, that we're there for the fight, and you cannot fold to a bully.
Meanwhile, news here at home and Lancashire Police have confirmed that a body found in the forest of Bowland has been identified as a 33-year-old mother of two, Katie Kenyon. They also confirmed that a post-mortem examination had found that head injuries had caused her death. Last week, Andrew Burfield appeared by video link from HMP Preston for a brief court hearing charged with the murder of Miss Kenyon. He was remanded in custody and is due back in court in November. Hundreds of people on board multiple small boats have today been intercepted in the English Channel by UK authorities. It follows 11 days in which no small boats crossed into UK waters. Since early this morning, at least 7 vessels were spotted and intercepted. Around 230 people have now been taken to the UK Border Force's processing centre in Dover. A series of bullying and sexual misconduct allegations involving MPs in Parliament has seen women working in Westminster coming forward to share their stories of harassment. Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle is calling for radical reform to make the House safer and more inclusive. That comes after the MP Neil Parish resigned after getting caught watching pornography in the Commons chamber. Tributes have been paid to the American country music singing star Naomi Judd, who's died at the age of 76. Judd found fame as part of the country music duo The Judds alongside her daughter Winona. Winona and Ashley announced their mother's death on social media today, saying, "We sisters experienced a tragedy." The mother and daughter duo earned a total of 5 Grammy Awards for hits including Why Not Me and Give a Little Love. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. And now it's time for Mark Dolan Tonight.
A very good evening to you on Mark Dolan Tonight. Lots to get through in our programme. So, for example, we are going to have our all-star panel and some of the most hot talking points of the day. I'll be dealing with Angela Rayner's growler, Labour, a week of lies. That'll be in my big opinion. In the big question, with the age of marriage being raised to 18 in England and Wales, is tying the knot still a good idea? We'll debate marriage live on the show with the Hamiltons, Neil and Christine. And tackling all of the big news stories of the day and reacting to Sunday's papers are my amazing panel of political commentator Alice Grant, broadcaster and presenter Ben Ofwedu, and best-selling author and Sun columnist Tony Parsons. My Mark Meets guest is one of the most compelling we've had on the show. So excited about this. You'll love him, take my word for it. War hero, entrepreneur, Hollywood actor and journalist Ed Brodo will be talking about his new book, Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America. He tells his incredible story at 10. You won't want to miss it. After Katie Taylor's massive title defence last night, we'll also take a look at women's boxing with world champion Ebony Bridges. I think she'll have me in the first round. Plus another game show featuring dodgy celebrity caught sketches like this one. Who could that be? Your guess is as good as mine. And in the news agenda, we'll be asking whether we're about to see a united Ireland. Also, are unions that strike selfish? And are men lazier than women? The ultimate poll. And today, as always, is Selfie Sunday, in which you send me photographs of your lovely selves. Here's a couple that we didn't have time for last week. Lovely Dawn, what a fine lady she is, rocking the GBNews logo. Paul. And there's a few others as well, but in celebration of the big political story of the week, Angela Rayner and her Sharon Stone moment, why don't you send in photos of your growler? That's right, we want to see pictures of your dogs in any shape or form. And you can show us your pussies as well. This is mine, he's Harry, named after my hero, Harry Kane, although he's also long-suffering without silverware. A big 2 hours to come, and I don't have to tell you the programme's golden rule, do I? We don't do boring, not on my watch, I just won't have it. This show is about one thing and one thing alone, and that is you. So I want to hear from you throughout the programme. Mark at gbnews.uk. We've got heated debate tonight, fascinating stories, big name guests, and plenty of fun along the way. It's Sunday night, so fire up the kettle, tear open the breakaway bars, remember them? And let's get to work. A week of Labour lies. After months of denial, the Labour Party were forced to admit that their deputy leader, Angela Rayner, was in attendance at a gathering in Durham where Keir Starmer drank beer. And after months of haranguing the Prime Minister about Partygate, which was disgraceful hypocrisy from Number 10, how is Sir Beer Starmer, as I like to refer to him now, in a position to comment following the release of this footage? I think you'll agree with me. It's damning. Here he is, drinking beer with colleagues during lockdown. Doesn't look like a meeting to me, except maybe an AA one that's gone badly wrong. But it gets worse. Just a week ago, the brilliant Mail on Sunday newspaper, a courageous and well-crafted tablet of truth, was hauled over the coals over a front-page splash created by their political editor, Glenn Owen. The story reported that Angela Rayner, a woman whose legwork is now more famous than Ginger Rogers, flicks her pins in the air and intimately reveals herself, like Sharon Stone in the movie Basic Instinct, in order to distract Boris Johnson at Prime Minister's questions. Let's be honest, Boris Johnson would be distracted by a nun in a habit. Father, forgive me. But after this story broke, all hell broke loose. There were calls for the journalist Glenn Owen to lose his parliamentary pass, which would effectively have ended his journalistic career. Talk about shoot the messenger. The poor old Prime Minister Boris Johnson got entangled in this and had to step in and denounce this misogynistic language about Rayner. This story played into the narrative that Parliament, and in particular Tory MPs, are riven with misogyny, which is why much of the press hoovered up this story with glee. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Even the Mail on Sunday's editor appeared to be in hot water after being summoned to the House of Commons by the Speaker himself, Lindsay Hoyle. Now, Hoyle is a man I admire, and he's widely liked and respected among MPs. He was a welcome replacement to the Brexit-hating bully, John Bercow, a man who thinks he's a great poet and orator, but is more Oscar Pistorius than Oscar Wilde. But on this occasion, Speaker Hoyle was wrong to demand a meeting. First of all, no independent journalistic outfit should be slavishly answerable to the House of Commons Speaker. I think you'll find our free press is a separate department from our legislature. And I don't want our hard-working hacks second-guessing whether their journalism will please the parliamentary authorities. In fact, the more it displeases them, the better. Well done to the Mail on Sunday for declining the invitation. Now, Keir Starmer is no doubt a nice man, fairly decent and clearly smart, but in my view, his political judgment is poor. He always seems to be on the wrong side of the argument and always backs the wrong horse. I'm not talking about Angela Rayner, by the way. Calm down. Starmer campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn, Vladimir Putin's bosom buddy, to be Prime Minister. He tried to overturn Brexit by pushing for a second referendum, and he backed the appalling lockdowns and wanted more, for which we're now paying the price via rampant inflation, a mountain of debt, a broken NHS and the appalling cost of living crisis. I don't think Labour can win with this guy in charge, and I want a strong Labour Party with a great leader, someone far more gifted and charismatic than Starmer. However, it could be the rather more earthy Angela Rayner, but she's got problems. First up, she is an impressive person who left school at 16 with few prospects and a baby in tow. Despite those huge challenges, including single motherhood, she has reached the upper echelons of British politics. She's a colourful and entertaining character who has outshone Starmer when looking after Prime Minister's questions, and she managed to get more jobs, not fewer, when Starmer tried to get rid of her during a reshuffle. Another example of Starmer's political club foot. But she is gaffe-prone too. Firstly, by denouncing Conservative MPs as scum, something most of the British public found to be deeply offensive language. And more recently, by concealing her presence at the Beergate party in Durham. Why was she so reluctant to admit that she was there? I hope it wasn't because saying she was would be an admission that they broke the rules. Surely not. This time, in relation to that story, props to the Mail newspaper for uncovering Rayner's presence at the Durham Bash, in spite of party denials, by studying her and Labour's social media posts. Painstaking forensic journalism, all in the national public interest. Starmer and Rayner are, in my view, the worst double act since Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. A real marriage made in hell. They've overlooked the cost of living crisis caused by lockdowns, which they backed, in order to obsess over Partygate. But it seems they like a party just as much. Which takes me to Angela Rayner's ginger growler. It's the part of her anatomy whose bark appears to be worse than its bite. Yes, she condemned the Mail on Sunday for printing this scoop. She said this story coarsens, cheapens and debases our politics, except that she acknowledged this so-called growler strategy in a political podcast in January. In the podcast, Rayner laughed about the Basic Instinct comparisons, joking that it had sparked an internet meme of her crossing and uncrossing her legs. And writing in the paper today, the Mail on Sunday's erstwhile political columnist Dan Hodges has identified 4 MPs, no less, who heard Rayner also telling this story and jokingly referring to her ginger growler, her words, not mine, at the terrace outside of Parliament. Even the pigeons were shocked. I'm so confused. Rayner is outraged by a sexist and offensive story, except that it seems it was her story and her language. And a party spokesman this week said the story was categorically untrue and made up. A week of Labour lies. Now, it's clear that there is a culture of misogyny at the House of Commons, and becoming an MP should be as female-friendly as it is male. But this confected row, constructed on a bed of untruths, deflection and hypocrisy, is the worst kind of fake news. This week, Labour have relinquished the moral high ground with Partygate hypocrisy and Growlergate lies. I've questioned Boris Johnson's fitness for office, and I've given him pelters for 2 years as a result of damaging and, in my view, needless lockdowns. But do you really want these two in charge? That's a question that will be preying on the minds of voters at the local elections on Thursday and at the next general election, which I believe will be sooner rather than later. It's been a week of own goals for Labour, and that's after a porn-watching Tory MP loses his seat. That takes some doing. All the focus has been on Rayner's seat instead. I believe that the ramifications of this will be lasting. All of Keir Starmer's pious hand-wringing over Partygate now really sticks in the craw, and his holier-than-thou sermons about doing the right thing will fall on deaf ears. The halo has slipped for the Labour Party, and they've vacated the moral high ground. The eager beavers in Her Majesty's opposition have muffed this right up. And Rayner's had a howler with her growler, and it couldn't be fouler. Reacting to the big stories of the day is my all-star panel tonight. Columnist and author Tony Parsons. Of course, he writes for The Sun. His latest bestseller is out now. We also have political commentator Alice Grant and singer and reality TV star and presenter Ben Ofuedo. Great to have all three of you with me. Ben, do you think that this story about Angela Rayner and all of the backtracking is damaging for the Labour Party?
Yeah, completely. I think it sort of takes away their sort of seriousness about the whole thing. I mean, the best thing about Keir Starmer is his name, and then it just stops there. I thought he had a great name, what a leader's name, but he showed no leading talents. And the Angela Rayner thing is like, that's the sort of path that you go down when you're going to be in Celebrity Big Brother, which is coming back, I think. So I think she's best off in there. And I've heard that growler isn't the word she actually uses, but it does begin with a G.
My goodness, it could be even worse, even more eye-watering. Alice Grant, what's your reaction to this story?
Well, to be honest, I think she's a disgrace and a really bad role model for any young woman who's interested in having a career in a male-dominated sector, particularly politics, for example. If this is the example she's setting, I mean, well, truly it's just representative of Labour, isn't it? Dishonest, rootless, superficial. I mean, what can you expect?
Tony Parsons, you are a scribbler of several decades vintage, and it's pretty clear that Glenn Owen may have come quite close to losing his job if the lies around this story hadn't been exposed.
Yeah, it's a great piece by Dan Hodges today, getting to the actual moment of growler creation, you know, following it all back to where it was first. I mean, I do have some sympathy for Angela Rayner, because I think this was said in a light-hearted manner, in a spirit of in a spirit of fun, and apparently Tory MPs do quite like having a drink with her, which they never said about Jeremy Corbyn. So I think that, you know, her mistake was clearly weaponising the story. But they all do it. They all do it. I mean, we're starting to sound like the Taliban. You know, Keir Starmer had a beer in Durham. You know, Boris looked at a cake in Downing Street. You know, I mean, we are really starting to sound like the Mujahideen. You know, this constant striving for moral purity. You know, this constant scrabbling over who occupies the moral high ground. I'm kind of sick of it, really. I'd like to know how they're going to protect our country from Putin, how they're going to cut taxes, what they're going to do about the cost of living crisis. I really had enough of everybody clutching their pearls at every beer and every little cupcake and every little sexual frisson. You know, I mean, she's an impressive politician. I think she made a huge mistake by not saying, look, it was said lightheartedly. Turn it round on the people that are running with this story and saying, you know, you're turning it into something that it wasn't. And you know, I think that people would have understood that. I just get a little sick of, you know, look, he's holding a beer. Oh, you know, it's not Kabul. You know, we're not in Kabul.
Can I disagree?
Alice?
I think it's quite worrying that our political class is so morally corrupt. I mean, these are our leaders, and they dictated to us over the last 2 years some of the most strict and tyrannical legislation over our country. They expected us to act in a way that was, you know, so, in a way, like obsessively pure about how we spend our lives, you know, basically surveilling us in parks. Like, it was the COVID pandemic truly showed a very authoritarian side of British politics.
It's true.
And at the same time, these leaders are now behaving like children Is British politics a pantomime? I mean, I do agree that to some extent it has gone ridiculous, but only because I think in a way they deserve to be scrutinised in a way that is that you know, in any way that they've scrutinised us.
When like Matt Hancock gets caught, you know, exploring, you know, taking a saliva sample from his staff, they do get jumped on, they do get punished. But I just think it's, you know, it's got to such a ridiculous degree now where there's this endless analysis about, you know, Keir Starmer's beer. I mean, I really couldn't.
Now, Tony,
give a damn.
Tony, I take your point because I think that Partygate was overplayed. My objection was the rules themselves and lockdowns, not the breaking of them. But isn't the point that Keir Starmer has been so hand-wringingly critical and moralising?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
To Boris.
Of course,
he started it.
Of course, he deserves to be called out for that. Of course, he does. But I just think that there comes a point when I think, you know, the reckoning is at the polling booth. The reckoning is when people decide whether they vote for either of them or they vote for no one. And I think that's when and I just think I just don't think that our national debate should be about cupcakes and beer.
Yeah.
I think it's like the snowball effect, though, isn't it? I think once you've opened that can of worms, it's going to go that way. I think Keir Starmer was the one who sort of started that Partygate sort of thing, and I think that he always gets the tone wrong, no matter what he's talking about. He always comes at the wrong time and sort of says the wrong thing about him. And also, I kind of think that this celebrity culture thing that we kind of live in, it's like, you know, 4 years ago, you could have opened a magazine and you wouldn't have known any politicians, but you would have known Boris Johnson. So he became a celebrity. In America, it was like Trump. Angela Rayner will have a lot of notoriety amongst teenage kids right now and everything like that. And I think she's probably enjoying it. And the thing is, we want our leaders to be kind of well-known and slightly famous and slightly celeb-y. That is the zeitgeist of the times we're living in, unfortunately. Yeah. So politics is a bit of a pantomime.
And what's interesting about the attitude of Westminster to women is that the party of equality and the party of everyone being given a fair chance, the Labour Party, they've had 122 years and they haven't managed to have a woman leader yet. I mean, that's kind of really, that's amazing, you know, amazing that in 122 years they chose, you know, and they've had some great women. Barbara Castle, you know, there's been some fantastic, Kate Hoey, there's been some fantastic female Labour politicians. And, you know, they're talking about the culture of misogyny and sexism in Westminster. Well, surely that's the heart of it. Surely that's the absolute heart of it. Why the Tories are about to elect their third female leader and the Labour Party have never had one. It's nuts. It
is nuts. I mean, Ben, if I can ask you in relation to Angela Rayner, I mentioned in my big opinion monologue that she has many gifts and she's got a remarkable life story which would rightly inspire many. But there appears to be strong evidence now that she lied about her presence at this Beergate bash in Durham, and also that she lied about this story that she you know, throws her legs in the air and exposes herself to Boris Johnson during PMQs. She condemned that story, said it was a horrible sexist piece in the Mail on Sunday. The Speaker of the House was up in arms. But there's clear evidence now that it was her story and her language, her choice of words. I mean, should there be any political consequences to this?
I don't know. It's all spin. I don't think we'll ever be able to prove whether she was lying about it or not. I think that she understands the time. She's got big ambitions. She's going for the top. She wants to be Prime Minister one day. And she realises that it's a bit of a pantomime up there and you've got to spin and you've got to get more famous and you've got to get more notoriety. And she's just kind of gone with it like that. And you'll never be able to prove whether that story was real or not. So, you know, but I always felt that story was slightly fishy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose the key thing now is to be a celebrity, to be a household name, and that's how you get votes. Let me ask each of you in the panel briefly, starting with you, Ben. Do you think that she will be the next leader of the Labour Party? Because I suspect for her sins, she will.
I kind of think she will. I think Keir Starmer's turning out to be a bit of a damp squib, unfortunately. And I think that pretty soon Labour will come to the decision that he won't be Prime Minister. And so there'll be a bit of a tussle. And I think she will go in. And also, like what Tony said, you know, it'd be their first woman, which will be a good thing and which will fit the times that we're in.
Alice Grant, is she the next leader of the Labour Party, potentially a future Labour Prime Minister?
Well, I hope she's the next leader, because I think that would render Labour even more unelectable than they presently are. But I definitely don't imagine her as Prime Minister. I think it's just a shame that we used to have such great, female politicians like Margaret Thatcher, and who've been reduced to this as a young woman. I mean, looking at someone like Angela Rayner, I don't think that's a good role model at all. I don't think there's anything inspiring. Sure, her beginnings may have been great, but we have to judge our politicians based on their actions right now. And to blow this out of proportion, for her own words to be what is truly sexist and misogynistic, and then the spin, I mean, it's just disgraceful.
What do you think about this, Tony Parsons? You've been writing about many prime ministers going back to Blair and beyond.
Yeah.
Do you think she's got that X factor to become the next leader of the Labour Party? Because notwithstanding my concerns about her lies and obfuscation in relation to Growlergate, I do think she's got star quality.
Yeah, and it's refreshing to see a genuinely working-class person in Westminster. I think that actually Labour Party will end up going with my advice, which is that Gary Neville should be the next leader of the Labour Party, and he would romp home with an 80-seat.
Is it? Sorry, I'm just checking the date. Is it 1st of April again? What's happened?
He would be a brilliant Gary Neville. They need someone like that. They need to refresh the brand. They need to refresh the brand. They need these tired old Corbyn supporters are not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. They're tainted.
They should get someone patriotic then. They should get a patriotic, someone who truly represents the working class. Then if Labour reformed, if they truly represented the voice of the working class, I'm sure they'd get many votes, because the Conservatives seem to be looking after the interests of big corporations. But I think the problem is that they've abandoned the working class.
I think.
And so has Angela Rayner, despite her roots.
Well, I think that they've abandoned the working class across the board, because otherwise they would be talking about the cost of living crisis rather than Boris's cupcakes and Keir's can of beer in Durham. I mean, let's talk about the stuff that matters rather than all this Horlicks.
Lots of opinions to come. What's yours? Do you think that Labour have given up the moral high ground? Have they lost the plot over Beergate and Growlergate? Let me know your thoughts, Mark at gbnews.uk. I'd especially like to hear from you if you are a Labour voter. Are you concerned by the stories that have emerged this week? Also, in our news agenda before the end of the hour, is a united Ireland now inevitable? Also, are strikers selfish and are men lazier than women? I think we know the answer to that one. So lots to come. But after this, in the big question, is marriage still worth it? See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Oh, well, a big reaction to my big opinion monologue in relation to the Labour Party. For me, the halo has slipped. They've vacated the moral high ground over Beergate and Growlergate. Let's get your reaction. Strong words from Andrea, who says, "Dear Mark, Angela Rayner is scum. Heaven help us if this coarse, lame excuse for a politician becomes leader of the Labour Party. She's good for the Conservatives, though. A real vote winner for them." Dear Mark, says Elizabeth, Angela Rayner, no as a leader, but Gary Neville, an ex-footballer, champagne socialist, well, goodbye Labour then. Vicky says, "Hi Mark, great show. I hope Angela Rayner is the next Labour leader. Not only would it be hilarious, it would keep the Conservatives in power." Brilliant stuff. And we've also got something from Veronica, who says, "Hi Mark, when I visited the House of Commons, the signs clearly said no eating or drinking. Therefore, I was surprised to see Miss Rayner chewing gum throughout PMQs recently, using her mask as cover. I wrote to the Speaker's office to inquire about this. They replied it would be looked into. Standards can go down, women or men." There you go. Well, look, thank you so much for that one. I'll get to more of your opinions very shortly. But let's have a look at some selfies. It is Sunday Selfies to celebrate the Growlergate story. We're asking you to send in pictures of your growler. That's right, send me pictures of your dog. We'll take pussies as well, cats and dogs. Let's have a look at your gorgeous felines and canines. And let's start with this one. It's Andrew and his brother Chris from Sussex. Lovely selfies. Hello, lads. Looking good in the sunshine there. Have we got any others? Let's have a look. Oh, yes, we've got a selfie with newborn lambs. Oh, wonderful. It is that time of the year. Fabulous photo. Thanks for sending that one in. It's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major news story of the day from multiple points of view. The age of marriage in England and Wales has been raised from 16 to 18, but with rates of divorce reaching almost 50%, is marriage still a good idea or an ancient relic of the past? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome one of the most high-profile married couples in the country, legendary political double act Neil and Christine Hamilton, and casting her professional verdict on the issue is dating expert and relationships guru Nadia Essex. Great to have all three of you with me. It's a threesome with the Hamiltons.
It's a foursome, Mark, if you're included.
Well, you're quite right. I'm not sure there's space for me. Christine, where do we start? Is marriage still worth it?
Yes, of course it is. If you have a really happy one, and which we're lucky enough to have, of course it's worth it. But, you know, people seem to think it's just going to happen. But it isn't. You have to work at it. It takes, you know, time and patience and tolerance and goodness knows what. And it's not this bed of roses. And I think my view is that if more people, when they got married, first of all, thought about it in advance a little bit more. Secondly, actually listened when they took their wedding vows, what they promised to do, but many people don't. I'm not talking about obey, by the way, because I never promised to do that in 1983. No way.
No, I had to do that.
And then if they just remembered them, you know, if they remembered them once a week, it might make quite a difference. But people don't. And the slightest little stone in the road or hiccup, and they think, oh, let's throw in the towel.
Well, yes, for sure. I mean, Christine, the issue you've got now is that back in the day when you met Neil, the world was a different place. We didn't have Tinder and Grindr and all of the other apps on our phones. It's so easy now to get instant pleasure, instant gratification. So why would you bother sticking with one person?
Oh, heavens alive. I mean, there are so many reasons why you do that.
Well, once bitten, twice shy, I suppose.
I didn't know she bit.
All the polls tell you that you know you have greater mental stability, greater health. What? It's better, yes, better for the children, etc., etc., etc. And I'll tell you the unfair thing, Mr. Dolan, is that men benefit disproportionately more under all those feel-good things than women do.
And I suppose, therefore, it's good for your health. We have seen statistics about how good marriage is for your health. Has it been good for your health, Neil?
Well, I'm still standing anyway. That's one thing I can claim, I suppose, at my advanced age. But yes, I mean, I'm kept on a pretty healthy diet because Christine does all the cooking. I've got no say in any of that or much else in marriage, actually. But I think that's always been to my benefit over the years because my judgment on these things is notoriously poor. So I defer to Christine in most things.
That is absolute rubbish, of course. People often think that I wear the trousers because I'm the louder one and the more outgoing one and, you know, sort of bossy battle axe, etc. But actually, we wear a leg each, but I decide which pair we put on in the morning. That's how it works. Yeah. Isn't that right?
Exactly. Well, I mean, I thought the best reason for getting married is the tax advantages that accrued, because I was a tax lawyer at the time, and so I just did the arithmetic, and so there was no contest then.
There you go, Christine. He married you for the money. Do you think, Neil, that the government do enough to encourage marriage through the tax system and in other ways?
Well, I do think that marriage ought to have a tax advantage because it's a very good thing, I think, for people to make the legal commitment. I think you can't legislate for human relationships, obviously, but I think that there should be an advantage to the stability which a married relationship gives you. And as Christine said earlier on, you do have to work at these things. You can't just throw in the towel at the first squall or storm that you encounter. Life is a series of ups and downs. Or at our age, of course, we don't do much of that anymore. But,
for goodness sake!
But you know what I mean.
Well, I do. Unfortunately, I do know what you mean, and I think we've entered the realms there of too much information. Hashtag TMI. And by the way, I don't buy a word of it, Neil. I'm sure you're a tiger in the sack. Let's bring the brilliant Nadia Essex into this. Dating expert, relationships guru. Nadia, as I mentioned, you can find instant love on your smartphone. Why would you bother being with the same person for decades?
I think my problem is with like the new generation is that everyone wants to have a great wedding for the sake of Instagram, but no one's willing to work on a great marriage. And I just have a real, like, a lot of my clients that come to me, they're like, oh, I want to get married. And I'm like, do you want to be married or do you want to have a wedding? Because they're really two different things. And I think if we kind of, we live in a disposable, Instagrammable, you know, swipe left or right, whatever you do, get rid of society, that it's so easy now to say, oh, yeah, I want you, but I don't necessarily want you for life. I think people don't get married the way they used to and think this is forever. They now get married and think, this is okay, yeah, this is good, and I'll see how it goes. And I think, you know, it's really difficult because I struggle. I'm kind of half and half. I'm an old school gal. I love romance. I love marriage. I love, you know, wonderful long marriages that, you know, like we've got a great foursome going on. I love that. But I also understand that it's such a disposable world that why wouldn't you, when things are going wrong, go, next, bye. I don't have to put up with this. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man that's going to treat me like rubbish. And I get that, like, society's put pressure on, especially women, to be like, I don't need to put up with no scrubby man that's going to do this. Whereas in the olden days, it was like, we're going to work together and build a team, you know, a friendship and a relationship that works on, we're building a life together, not against each other. And it's just difficult. So I understand it, but I'm sad. I love marriage. I think it's wonderful.
And Christine, marriage is a remarkably enduring institution. It surprised me to see Brooklyn Beckham getting married at the tender age of 23. This is a guy that's got the rest of his life ahead of him, but he's decided to commit to one person, a judgment and a decision that's made by millions around the world to this day.
Absolutely, and one may think that in this day and age, people would think marriage wasn't really necessary. But in fact, if you look, you mentioned Brooklyn Beckham, if you look at his parents, there are plenty of people who, when they got engaged way back then, which was back in the 80s, I think, or certainly the 90s, I mean, they've been married a very long time. And a lot of people said, this won't last, you know, a pop star and a mega footballer, this won't last. And it has. It stood the test of time. It stood dare I say it, alleged infidelities, etc. And they are still happily married. They've got a lovely family, etc., etc. But too many people treat marriage like, frankly, a disposable nappy. Perfect for now, but if it gets a bit messy, let's get rid of it. And that is not, the rewards of working at a marriage, and we've had to work at it, not all the time. He is impossible, but there we are. The rewards are enormous. I mean, the comradeship, all you have to do, it's actually easy. All you have to do is put the other one first. And if you both do that, you will find...
I genuinely think 23 is too young to get married in this day and age. 20, 30 years ago, no. But we now live in a disposable age where we've moved forward. And, I love the Beckhams. I think they're amazing. I think they're, they've been married for such a long time. Things are great. And they're, in terms of role model marriage, they've stood the test of time, like you said. But I don't want to take any love coaching clients that are single under the age of 25, because up until you're at least 25, you should be out there experiencing life. You should be going on holidays. You should be enjoying your singleness, because in this day and age, you'll never get that back.
Neil Hamilton, is it worth holding fire and getting married perhaps in your 30s?
Yeah, well, I was 34 when I was told I was getting married, and you waited. And I'd had 7 years. Yeah, I'd had 7 years in the wilderness, because we met when we were 18, and Christine dumped me when I was how old? 23, 24. No, so it was more than, and we got back together in 1978. So 1971 she dumped me, and we got back together in 1978. And
on the 17th of February at 7:30 in the evening.
Yeah, and of course that did enormous psychological damage to me. So it took me many, many years to accept that I could repose any confidence in Christine again. But we got married then in 1983 when I was 34 years old. By then, of course, inertia steps in, doesn't it, really? And so now Christine wears me like an old cardigan, really.
Well, thanks for that strong image that we can't unsee. I'm impressed that you waited until you were 34, Neil, to lose your virginity. What a hero. Let's bring my wonderful...
It's not exactly what he said. What he said was we met at 18.
We're back to TMI. Let's bring my wider panel into this if we can, Neil, Christine and Nadia. I'm delighted to have Ben with us, Ben Ofwedu, and also Alice Grant and Tony Parsons. Ben, you are, of course, happily married to the beautiful Vanessa Feltz. So you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, actually, I'm not actually married. I've been engaged to Vanessa for 16 years.
Ah.
And there's something about engagement that I really like. I like the fact that I'm not quite there yet. And so I'm still sort of on my best behaviour, and I think she's still on her best behaviour. It's that kind of thing. So, but I would get married, and I believe in marriage, but that's to do with religious grounds. I think that I believe in God, and I think he'd like to see me married. And that is literally it. But apart from that, the engagement thing's pretty good. You're together, you're kind of betrothed to each other. We live almost like a married couple. I can't imagine myself, doing anything else or being with anyone else and stuff. So I do believe in marriage. But, I'm happily engaged.
Well, that's wonderful. Have you got anything you'd like to say to Vanessa, who I'm sure is watching, Ben?
Vanessa, will you marry me?
Oh, wow.
I've asked already, I'm engaged.
It's a teaching moment.
Sounds good.
I'm sure the lovely Vanessa will say yes and welcome you with open arms.
She's in Rome at the moment, so I don't know if she would say
Oh, well, that's good to know. I hope I'll be an usher at the wedding at the very least.
Of course.
Or maybe I could be the DJ. What do we think about this, Alice Grant? You are a woman of faith as well, so I guess that comes into it when you think of marriage.
Yes, of course. Catholic teaching says that the main purpose of marriage is, of course, the procreation and the education of children. So if we're speaking about marriage and we fail to mention children, I think that it's really quite hollow, because that is surely the main purpose of it. It's to provide a good educational environment for future children, and also, I think, to mutually help your partner to gain greater sanctity as well. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Tony, you've I believe been married Well, you're on your second marriage, is that right?
I'm on my second marriage, and Yuriko and I have been married for 30 years on the 4th of July this year.
Congratulations.
And I think with young Mr. Beckham, I think if you've grown up in a solid marriage like that, if you've grown up with parents that are very strong in their marriage, I think, as I had a mum and dad who were crazy about each other, and I think you think it's easier than it actually is. I think that you look at your mum and dad who seem to do it without making any effort, and it's only when you get married yourself that you find it's got to be worked at, and it's a struggle, and it's give and take. What I have found after 30 years of marriage is that there's a bond that can only come with time. There's a bond that can only come when you've brought up children together, when you've had good times and very bad times, when you've watched each other's parents die, when you've supported each other through that. And you get to a point in your life where you can't get that with someone you meet in a bar or you meet on Tinder. You just can't. There's just not enough time to replicate that relationship that you've got with your wife or your husband. And that's what I've realised, that you can't duplicate it. You've given your life to this partnership and you've made it work. So I have to say, I think with our daughter who's 19, I think for children born this century, it's a different prospect, and I think that there'll be plenty of people that will stay together and will have those partnerships without marriage, because I think that I've heard Alice speak about her faith before, and she speaks very eloquently about why her Catholic faith means that she believes in getting married once and only getting married once. And I think there'll be a lot of children born since the millennium who will not get married at all. We will see it as kind of as old-fashioned as banana rationing.
Nadia, will people still be getting married in 100 years' time?
The Catholics will.
I hope so, but I also just want to shout out to the people that can't have children, that want to have children, that are also married. Like, we can't be exclusive, that marriage isn't just for children and
Sure.
the want of children. Like, people want to get married for their own purposes, because ultimately I think that most people that want to get married are in love, and they have the beginnings of marriage is the real idea that, even though in the back of their mind they're like, oh, it's not forever. People still have that fairy tale vibe, and you don't necessarily have to do it for the reasons of having children, or because a lot of people can't have children. So just want to throw it out there to all the people that struggle with conceiving.
Well, I think it's really important that you raise that point, and there clearly is a difference between boyfriend, girlfriend and husband and wife, as demonstrated by the blissfully happy Neil and Christine Hamilton. In fact, it gives me great pleasure, Neil and Christine, to declare you an official married couple, and therefore, Mostyn Neil Hamilton, you may kiss the bride.
Oh.
Yay!
Find ourselves as a professionally happily married couple.
Absolutely right. And Ben, you may blow a kiss to the gorgeous Vanessa.
Vanessa,
Oh,
mwah.
We love Vanessa. We've done lots of things on TV and radio with her over the years. She's wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I'll let her know. We've all met before. Nadia, hello. Neil, Christine, hello.
Get a room, you guys. This flirt fest has got to stop.
Tony was saying, because Tony talked in, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was about the highs and lows of life. And we very publicly have had some pretty dramatic lows in life. And we've often been asked, did that force you apart? Did that make any problems? Well, actually, no. It actually, because of the strength of our bond, it just actually made it even stronger. And I think everybody experiences highs and lows, and you just have to get through them. And frankly, if you've got a rock solid relationship, assuming that the lows don't involve somebody's infidelity, it makes it much easier to get through them.
Absolutely right. And I guess in the spirit of love, let me blow a kiss to the long-suffering Mrs. Dolan. I couldn't love you more. What a lucky man I am, and how unlucky you are. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much to the Hamiltons. Do come and see us again soon in the studio. Also, Nadia Essex, dating expert, and my fantastic panel of Ben, Alice, and, of course, Tony, who return in the next hour. In fact, they'll be back in a couple of minutes too. In our news agenda, is a United Ireland on the cards? Are we going to see the loss of Northern Ireland from the UK? Could that be just a matter of time? We'll debate that very shortly. My Mark Meets guest is a war hero, a Hollywood actor and a best-selling author. You won't want to miss the amazing Ed Brodo. He's live at 10. Take my word for it, his story is quite remarkable. So lots to come. Don't miss a thing. Keep those Sunday selfies coming in, including pictures of your dogs or cats. That's right, we're happy to see growlers tonight. Mark at gbnews.uk. See you in a sec.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Dear Mark, says Gerald, Rayner throws her legs in the air and Hoyle throws his arms in the air, but it's all done in the best possible taste. What a lovely reference. Keep those emails coming in. But look, let's get to your Sunday selfies. They're flooding in. Mark at gbnews.uk. This is Dee and Poppy. Gorgeous. There's a couple of growlers. That's what I'm talking about, Angela Rayner. And also producer Tom and Wilf. That's right, it's my brilliant producer, Tom, and that's his furry friend. Both handsome devils, I think you'll agree. Now, if recent opinion polls are to be believed, Sinn Féin will soon be the largest party on both sides of the Irish border, leading to fears among unionists that Irish reunification could happen by stealth. The party most closely associated with violence during the Troubles has sought to soften its image by focusing its campaign on the cost of living crisis and NHS waiting lists, which studies show are higher priorities for voters than the Northern Ireland Protocol, the focus, of course, of the DUP's campaign. So is Irish reunification possible? And is Britain losing Northern Ireland just a matter of time? Tony Parsons.
I think it's not inevitable. It's certainly not inevitable. Ireland was united throughout most of its history. It's a relatively recent development, partition. I think that there's the fact that there's a customs union down the middle of the Irish Sea now certainly takes Northern Ireland further away from Great Britain, makes the United Kingdom less united. I think Brexit has certainly weakened the UK. It's indisputable. They're being treated differently from the rest of us. whether it's ever going to happen. I think that it's always been the majority of people in Northern Ireland wanted to be a part of the United Kingdom. Even if the majority wanted to leave, there would still be a substantial minority who wouldn't be so keen on the idea and who would see it as something that they absolutely didn't want to sign up to. So it's kind of for the Irish to decide, really. The rest of us have got to stand back and let them work it out themselves. I don't think it's inevitable, but I do think that Northern Ireland has been cut adrift by Westminster and cut adrift by this country, and the Northern Ireland Protocol hasn't been addressed enough, it wasn't thought through enough, and we haven't really stood by the people of Northern Ireland the way we should have done. So it's one of the great sadnesses, I think, about Brexit, that it's definitely weakened the United Kingdom.
Which makes resolving the Northern Ireland Protocol an absolute political priority for the Prime Minister. I mean, do you think Westminster should be showing Northern Ireland more love and doing more to preserve the Union?
Well, I think that Lord David Frost should have been kept right at the heart of government, because I think he was the one man that seemed capable of addressing this knotty, thorny historical issue, and he's not. He left for his own reasons, and so I don't have much hope that they're going to show a lot of love.
No, you've got to worry about this, Alice, haven't you? Our great country broken up in this way?
Yes, for sure. I think the way Brexit was implemented certainly has damaged, our relationship with Northern Ireland, and it's really sad to see indeed. In all these years, I don't think I've ever heard a solution really for the issue of the Northern Irish Protocol, and it is truly very difficult. I'd say that ultimately it is, of course, I agree. It's down to the will of the Irish people.
I mean, of course we are a British television network and radio network, and we've got so many viewers in Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Many of whom, most of them want to be British,
and a lot of us have got Irish blood. A lot of us have got Irish blood. Yeah, we are incredibly close to Ireland. More than anything, we want peace there, and we want people to be happy and prosperous. I think it is heartbreaking, the way, as someone who campaigned for Brexit and supported Brexit, it's unquestionable and self-evident that damage has been done to the United Kingdom. It's less united than it was.
Yeah. Can that be resolved, do you think, Ben?
I don't really know. I mean, just repeating what everyone said, it's definitely down to the Irish people. I'm a bit worried that we're going to lose Scotland, lose Ireland, lose everything. We'll just be small, little England. But I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Northern Ireland, and the way, and in the music business, it's funny because when you release records, the charts are the same and everything like that. So we often, if you ever hit over here, you enjoy. Going to Northern Ireland and performing at the places and stuff like that. But, I just think it's down to the people. But they seem happy enough to be part of the UK, so I don't really know.
Well, I mean, some people think the demographics will ultimately decide this, as statistically there are more and more Republicans north of the border. But in the end, perhaps it's lots of various issues, not just that protocol.
I think the demographic, it's a bit of... I think it's a bit of a mistake to think that the demographics will swing it, because you're still asking people in peaceful, prosperous Republic of Northern Ireland to take on what? To take on an unhappy minority that don't want to be part of this. So it's. I don't think the demographics in Northern Ireland will be quite as crucial as people believe.
And also the EU will obviously inevitably come into this as well, because Ireland are part of the Euro, and that's not going to be working out great for them as time passes. So joining Ireland will also thus mean joining the European Union, which I think would be, this is massive empire we're talking about. I don't think...
But at least they'll get cheap Russian gas. At least they'll get lots of lovely cheap Russian gas from that nice Mr. Putin.
Absolutely right. Look, we've got so much more to get through. Very excited about my Mark Meets guest. You're going to love him. He's a war hero, a Hollywood actor and a best-selling author. Ed Brodo is live at 10. Hear his incredible story very, very shortly. Also in the news agenda, are strikers simply selfish and are men lazier than women? I'll see you shortly.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very excited about the next hour of the show. We're going to be joined live by the boxing world champion, women's boxing world champion, none other than Ebony Bridges. She's here at 10:20. We'll talk about that amazing fight last night at Madison Square Garden. We'll talk about why it is that more and more women are getting attracted to women's boxing. What is the attraction of that sport? And also, do we undervalue women's sport? We'll be discussing that very, very shortly. Also in our news agenda, are striking workers selfish? Let's talk of a summer of discontent that lies ahead. That's the last thing we need, isn't it? And also, are men lazier than women? We'll debate that with my amazing panel. Plus, another game show as well. And don't forget, I'll be speaking to an American hero straight after the headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Thanks, Mark. The top stories tonight. Ukraine's President Zelensky says the first group of 100 civilians evacuated from Mariupol's Azovstal steelworks will arrive in Zaporizhia on Monday. A spokesperson for the United Nations said Operation Safe Passage, as it's called, is currently being coordinated between Kyiv and Moscow. Meanwhile, the president also spoke of the evacuations in terms of the weeks of turmoil beforehand.
There was not a day that we did not try to find a solution that would save our people. Today, for the first time in all the days of the war, this vital corridor has started working. For the first time, there were 2 days of ceasefire in this area. We managed to take out more than 100 civilians, women and children.
Well, an evacuee who'd been hiding at the bomb shelter for several weeks spoke about her experiences there.
The shelling was so strong as it kept hitting near us. At the exit of the bomb shelter, on top of the steps, I couldn't breathe as there was not enough oxygen. I was afraid to even walk out and breathe the fresh air. We were just not let out, and when the shells started landing in Azovstal, I thought my heart would stop and I would not survive it.
Well, in news here at home, Lancashire police have confirmed that a body found in the forest of Bowland has been identified as 33-year-old mother of two, Katie Kenyon. They also confirmed that a post-mortem examination had found that head injuries had caused her death. Last week, Andrew Burfield appeared by video link from HMP Preston for a brief court hearing charged with her murder. He was remanded in custody and is due back in court in November. Hundreds of people on board multiple small boats have today been intercepted in the English Channel by UK authorities. It follows 11 days in which no small boats crossed into UK waters. Since early this morning, at least 7 vessels were spotted and intercepted. Around 230 people were taken to the UK Border Force's processing centre in Dover. In Westminster, a series of bullying and sexual misconduct allegations involving MPs in Parliament has seen women working there share their stories of harassment. The Commons Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, is today calling for radical reform to make the House both safer and more inclusive. That comes after the MP Neil Parish resigned after he was caught watching pornography in the Commons chamber. And tributes have been paid to the American country music singing star Naomi Judd, who's died at the age of 76. Judd found fame as part of the country music duo The Judds alongside her daughter Winona. Well, Winona and Ashley announced their mother's death on social media today, saying, "We sisters experienced a tragedy." The mother and daughter duo earned a total of 5 Grammy Awards for hits including Why Not Me and Give a Little Love. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News, and now it's time for Mark Dolan Tonight.
A really busy hour coming up, all in the company of my fantastic panel, Tony Parsons, Alice Grant and Ben Ofwedu. In the news agenda this hour, we'll be asking several questions, including, do we undervalue women's sport? We're going to speak to the boxing world champion in women's boxing in this hour. Also, are people planning to strike this summer selfish? They're talking about major disruption. And we'll also be asking whether men are lazier than women. I think we know the answer to that one. Plus, it is Selfie Sunday, so get those photos in. In celebration of the Growler Gate scandal, we're asking for pictures of your dogs and cats. Show us your growler, Britain. Let's have a look at Luna. This is Luna Sanchez, gorgeous creature. And our executive producer's growler, Bodger. Never thought I'd see that. Lots of your own pictures are coming in. Tatiana's hard at work getting them ready for our next segment. So thanks very much for those. Keep them coming. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, music, sport and beyond. To say this man has had an amazing life story is an understatement of all understatements. Starting his career as a war hero, here he is as a lieutenant in the US Marines. Ed Brodo went on to become a Hollywood movie actor, a Fortune 500 sales executive, and now a best-selling author. As an actor, he had starring roles opposite Jessica Lange, Ron Howard and Christopher Reeve. He's also been described as the #1 negotiations speaker in the world. His book on business, Negotiation Bootcamp, How to Resolve Conflict, Satisfy Customers and Make Better Deals, topped the charts, and his latest looks set to do just the same. Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America. A fascinating read which, whether right or wrong, sparks an important debate. And I'm delighted to say that Ed Brodo joins me now. Ed, welcome to GB News.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the programme. How did you get involved in the military?
I got in the military to avoid being drafted.
It's a great solution. How old were you when you went into the military?
How old was I? I was 21. I was 21.
Right, and what was your early experience?
So, what?
How was your early experience? Tell me about those first few years.
The first few years in the military?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a person that does well in bureaucracies. So I'm also very insubordinate. So for me to be in the military was a difficult experience. But I have to say that the thing in my life that I'm most proud of is making it through officer candidate school in the U.S. Marine Corps. That for me was the toughest thing I've ever done because I had to really go against my basic personality. And I did. I was successful, and it's something I look back on with pride.
And what is the legacy of your time in the Marines? What did it give you as a human being?
It gave me something very important. It gave me the knowledge that no matter what the challenge is, I can meet that challenge. Because if I was able to do that, everything else in life has been pretty simple by comparison.
Did you have a conventional childhood?
No, I did not. I grew up in a broken home. I lived in a very, very bad neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, and it was tough. But they say adversity is the father of something. So I guess it worked out for me.
It most certainly did. After that, you became an actor. Was that always an ambition?
No. When I left the Marine Corps, I went into the corporate world, and I was an executive with companies like IBM and Litton Industries. And I got to the point where I was 30 years old. I hated what I was doing. And I said to myself, what if your doctor told you that you only had 6 months to live? How would you want to live that out? And it occurred to me I didn't want to be in the corporate world. So I thought, okay, what would I like to do? And it took me a while to figure out that I had always secretly thought it would be fun to be an actor. So I was in New York. I went down to Greenwich Village and signed up with an acting course with Lee Strasberg, the famous acting teacher. And one thing led to another.
And of course you did pretty well. You starred alongside Christopher Reeve and Ron Howard and many others.
I did very well. I did a lot of work. And 12 years of my life was devoted to it in New York and Hollywood. I eventually got tired with the business of acting. The actors are at the bottom of the food chain, and I didn't like being in that passive position.
Yeah.
So I did a complete 180, and I became a motivational speaker and an author, and set myself up as one of the world's leading negotiation experts.
Yes, and what is the key to good negotiation?
The key to good negotiating is to keep your mouth shut and always look at it from the point of view of the other person and figure out what's the pressure on them as opposed to what's the pressure on me.
And is there a sense, if anyone's about to have a job interview or negotiate a pay rise, do you have to be thinking what you can actually deliver for that money or for that job? You've always got to think what's in it for the person who holds all the cards.
That's right. And you've always got to remember that it may seem like they're interviewing you, but you've got to act like you're interviewing them. Mm-hmm. So you want to get them to tell you why you should take the job instead of trying to justify, why am I qualified for the job? No, why should I take this job?
And is there a danger of sometimes wanting it too much and being too keen and trying too hard?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should never want anything so much that you just can't do without it. So I always say to people, always be willing to walk away.
And as a motivational speaker, you've helped thousands of people with your positive message. If there are people watching this who want their life to change, what is the best first step?
The best first step is to recognize that you're not dissatisfied with your life right now. And say to yourself, what am I doing that is motivated by what other people told me to do? So you have to find out where your bliss is. There was Joseph Campbell was a famous philosopher, mythology expert, and he said you have to follow your bliss. And that's what I did, and that's what I recommend. Find out what it is that you love to do, what it is that makes you excited to get up in the morning. Go with that, and you can't go wrong.
We were talking about fear on last night's show. What is the best way to tackle fear if you're afraid to do something?
Well, fear is a good thing. You know, we think that fear is bad. No, embrace your fear, embrace it, understand what it is, and then move through it. Don't allow it to define you.
And obviously, one of the key steps towards success is to change your situation. So how do we enact change? Because there's a great human tendency to stay where we are, isn't there?
Yeah, it's safe. And unfortunately, safe is not necessarily good. So, as I said, what you have to do is say to yourself, what would make me excited to get up in the morning? Or as I also, you know, if you say to yourself, if I had 6 months to live, how would I want to live that time? And that should bring you to the right place.
Is it ever too late?
Never. Never too late. You know, I've been making changes all my life. And I'll go into a certain area in a direction, and I'll play that out. And if at a certain point it seems like that's not working anymore, I go and I make another change. And I've been doing that all my life. I've been adjusting and changing and being fluid. So it's never too late to change the direction of your life.
And tell me about your latest book, Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America. That's a foray on your part into political non-fiction. First of all, why did you write the book?
I wrote it because I was just fed up with what was going on in my country. I was fed up with the Obama administration. I was fed up with the way that the American left is trying to demonize the country and tell us that we're a terrible country, that we should be ashamed of ourselves. And I couldn't handle that. I also got tired of people calling me a racist. They called me a racist because I didn't vote for Obama. You know, how ridiculous can you get? So it forced me out of being just, you know, an average citizen who didn't care very much about politics. It forced me to be somebody who said, you know, I care about the future of the country, and I've got to do something about it. So I started writing. And Tyranny of the Minority, the basic idea behind it is that we have a very small percentage of the population that's on the left in our country. And they're the ones that are telling us that the country is a bad country. And we have to recognize that we are the majority, and we have to push back against that and stop these people from controlling the narrative. Right now we have Hollywood, we have academia, we have big tech, we have the media, all of them trying to push a leftist agenda when the majority of the American people don't buy that. And we have to take our power back.
And how do you see this playing out? Do you think ultimately the hard left will be defeated, the so-called woke warriors?
Yes, I do. I think we're going to see in November of this year, the elections are going to, hopefully, the Republicans will take back the House and the Senate. And in 2024, I think we're going to put another strong Republican back in the White House. So I'm very optimistic. I think that the one good thing that Biden has done is he's shown the American public how poor the Democrats are at managing the country. And I think there's going to be a huge backlash.
And what's your verdict on the presidency of Joe Biden?
My verdict is terrible, just terrible. You take whatever the issue is, Joe Biden is going to make the wrong decision. The man is an absolute disaster. And the irony is that we were under Trump. America had achieved prosperity. Everybody was better off. And yet the voters voted him out and voted in this man who has no idea what he's doing, who's under the influence of the extreme left of the Democratic Party. And we don't know who's running the country. So it's crazy. It's the kind of a thing, you know, it's literary fiction.
Do you think that Joe Biden is physically fit for high office?
Physically, no, and certainly not emotionally fit. I think he shows that every time he opens his mouth.
And Ed, what's next for you? You said that you're always changing, always reinventing yourself, always innovating. So what's next?
Well, the next one right now is me as a political commentator and an author. So I'm into that one right now. I don't know what the next one is going to be.
Well, listen, I hope you'll join us as a political commentator again in the near future.
I'm sorry?
I hope you'll join us again as a commentator in the near future.
I hope so, too.
It's been a privilege to have you on the show, Ed. Let's catch up again soon. Ed Brodo is the author of Tyranny of the Minority, How the Left is Destroying America, and it's out now. Many thanks to Ed for that. Lots more to come. We'll be talking about women's boxing later in the show. Very excited about that. What attracts women to go into boxing? We'll talk about that. Is women's sport undervalued in this country? But can we just talk about politics for a second? Recently disgraced Neil Parish MP has announced that he's resigning from his Tiverton and Honiton seat after admitting watching porn not once but twice in Parliament. Well, if you think that was bad, take a look at this absolute filth. A truly dirty outfit whilst talking to the BBC, as if that wasn't bad enough. I mean, what is going on with those shoulder pads? But this is not the only fashion crime in Parliament. Let's have a look at some classic political fashion fails over the years. The Prime Minister Boris Johnson is no stranger to getting dressed in the dark, as he's pictured going for a jog. Look at the state of former Chief Advisor to the Prime Minister, Dominic Cummings. He certainly wasn't the PM's chief fashion advisor. David Cameron famously forgot to pack his espadrilles whilst on holiday in Ibiza. He looks like he's about to have a meeting, doesn't he? Like a Cobra meeting or something. Jeremy Corbyn took his former role as leader of the opposition too literally, as he went against style conventions and opted to dress like a teenaged skater boy. Seriously, fella, act your age. Fear not, fashion fails are not exclusive to our shores. Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn seems to have jumped on the cropped top trend. No muffin top in sight there. Look at those abs. And last but not least, Jacob Rees-Mogg, looking rather dapper whilst donning his top hat for Dress Down Friday round at the Moggs. I think that's enough of those eyesores. Lots more to come in the programme. Coming up, we're going to speak to the world boxing champion, Ebony Bridges, about that amazing fight last night. We'll talk about women's boxing, what attracts women to boxing, and do we undervalue women's sport? Also, strikers, are they selfish? We're being softened up for a summer of discontent, but is it in the national interest? What do you think? Plus, are men lazier than women? And another great British game show as well. So much to come. See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Is a united Ireland inevitable? Strong words from Derek, who says, good evening. It's inevitable and right that in time there is a united Ireland and we will get on in a new relationship. Also, it's a matter of time that Scotland will break away. Good riddance. It's the politicians and media that say it will be a disaster. Rubbish, says Derek. Anne says, hi Mark, I'm a first-generation Irish national with family across the border. I think it's wrong to assume all Catholics in Northern Ireland want a united Ireland. My relatives who are Catholic want to remain part of the UK, mainly for financial reasons. Matthew says, good evening. I believe that Irish reunification is not going to happen anytime soon and that the majority of people in Northern Ireland are in favour of the United Kingdom. More could be done to show appreciation for Northern Ireland, such as by scrapping the protocol and reviving the Order of St Patrick for distinguished service to Northern Ireland. I know it's a pipe dream, but I'd love for Ireland to rejoin the UK, however unlikely that is. Matthew, thank you for that. Keep those emails coming. It is Selfie Sunday, and to celebrate Angela Rayner, we're asking for pictures of your growler. So we'll take dogs or cats. This is Carl and Cleo the cat. What a double act. Here's the dashing Cleo the dog, sent in by Sed. Thank you for that. And I'm loving that hat as well. Look at that, a decorated doggy hero. And Kelly has sent in a photo of Sergio, the sausage dog. Gorgeous. A big fan of the show. We've also got Lulu the cat. Little Lulu hiding there on a stool. It's happy hour every hour for her. And this is a lovely Cocker Spaniel called Poppy. I'm loving your growlers and I'm loving the cats too. Keep them coming, mark at gbnews.uk. Last night, Ireland's boxing icon Katie Taylor beat Amanda Serrano to retain her undisputed lightweight title, making her one of the greatest fighters of all time. She beat Serrano on points in New York, with the pair becoming the only female fighters to sell out the iconic Madison Square Garden. So is this a golden era for women's boxing? And if so, what's the attraction? And given all the noise made when men fight, is women's sport and women's boxing undervalued? I'm delighted to welcome Ebony Bridges, who started her boxing life as a ring girl, but soon changed that after turning professional in 2019. She won the IBF bantamweight title earlier this year in just her 9th fight, and this British star is now a world champion. Ebony, welcome to GB News.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm so well. Great to have you on the show. What's your reaction to the result last night?
It was unbelievable. You know, not just the result, the whole evening, just everything about last night was monumental in the history of boxing. You know, obviously women's boxing, not just not just women's boxing, but boxing as a whole. It was incredible. An unbelievable fight, a great fight, and yeah.
It was obviously amazing courage at play. What got you into women's boxing?
Well, what got me into, obviously boxing, I started martial arts when I was young, when I was 5. So I've always been into combat sports. And, in Australia, it was actually illegal for women to fight in combat sports, quite similar to Ireland, until 2008. So although I was training and all this, I was never able to fight. So I kind of, to stay in the boxing and to stay in the whole industry, I started doing the card girling. So I was like, well, if I can't fight, then I want to be at the fights. And so I would, obviously get paid to walk around the ring and hold the cards up, but I would still be able to sit ringside and, be able to enjoy the fights. And then, it came through that we were able to fight. And that was it. I was like, okay, let's do it. This is what I've always wanted to do. And, I started getting in the ring for different reasons.
Yeah, what are the attractions to females of going into boxing? Because I guess, it's not the most obvious thing for a young girl to do as a teenager, is it?
No, well, I think, it's very hard for me to just, there's no one reason why people get into boxing, I can't speak for all women. But obviously boxing, it's a challenging sport. It's a sport where you can really challenge yourself. It takes a lot of self-discipline. Personally, I just kind of really enjoy fighting. I really enjoy the physicality of it and the aggression of it. Don't mind punching people in the face. But there is a lot of women that just start getting into it for fitness, because it is obviously, I've talked to a lot of my friends and they started off by getting into it through fitness, and then they just thought, okay, well, let's have a fight. But for me, it wasn't really like that. I always wanted to fight. When I was younger, as a teenager, I used to fight, so it was a little bit different. But everyone has their own reasons for getting into it. And personally, for me, I've grown up. I love combat sports, and obviously being a professional, I love the fact that I'm able to use my platform and use my name to spread messages around the world and inspire women around the world, to be you, be real, do what you want to do, and not let anyone stop you, because there's so much stereotype behind women in sport, and so much, especially boxing. I've got it I've got it my whole career. It's only just recently that I'm still trying to prove myself that, I think recently with being a world champion, I think I've proved myself, but it's been a hard road, especially with my looks and, the whole femininity thing, to prove that, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what sex you are, that you can do anything. And there's no stereotypes.
You're an incredible athlete, so skilled at what you do, such stamina and such expertise. You're also very, very beautiful. Have your looks been a disadvantage in the game?
It depends on how you look at it. I don't think it's been a disadvantage. No. I think the only disadvantage is that people didn't take me seriously. And I've really had to prove myself as a fighter, because if you're masculine, they kind of look, oh, well, she's, they relate masculinity with boxing, with fighting, with sport, right? So when you're not masculine and you're very feminine, people just write you off straight away, So I think that's something that I've always had to work a lot harder, to prove myself, because I get judged instantaneously on my looks and my appearance, and get called a gimmick just because I want to be feminine and I want to be beautiful and I want to embrace that. I don't think there's a problem, and I don't think there should be a problem with embracing your femininity and being into sport. But at the same time, looks helps a lot of things. It's, I can't, lie and disregard the fact that, having looks and being marketable definitely helps my career. That's human nature. I think that's general marketability, that if you look good and whatever it's going to help. So, and obviously I can fight hard. I'm a world champion. I've just beat the longest reigning world champion in my division. So I don't think anyone has any question marks on a blonde bomber.
No, that's too right. Why haven't you got a bent nose or cauliflower ears?
Because I'm good, right? The whole point of boxing is to hit and not get hit. So I think if I'm walking around not looking like a boxer, and when people come up to me and say, "Wow, you don't look like a boxer," I'm like, well, that's a compliment, because the last thing I want is a nose like this and a face all bunged up. Mind you, I have had my fair share of wars, and I have had some, big injuries and disfigured face, but thankfully it's only ever been surface stuff and it's not been an issue. But if I was worried about my looks, I wouldn't be boxing. It's not. I don't really care about it. I don't go into the ring going, oh, I might break my nose, or I might ruin my face. If you go into the ring, if you go into fights thinking like that, then that's what's going to happen. I don't have any fear of that. I'm more thinking about destroying my opponent's face than what's going to happen to my face. So, yeah.
Let's bring my panel into this. Ben Afuedo, Alice Grant, who I think's got a good right hook, and Tony Parsons. Alice, I know that you're a bit of an athlete. Do you fancy a couple of rounds in the ring with Ebony?
Oh my goodness! Can you imagine? That'd be absolutely.
Could you be tempted into boxing though, as a pastime?
I don't think so. I'm just not. It's not in my constitution at all, really. I enjoy sprinting, but I think Ebony's her zeal for it is really inspiring, and also her willingness to embrace her femininity, I think, is wonderful.
Alice, do you think that women's sport is a little undersold, a little undervalued?
I'd have to say America seems very forward in promoting and in getting behind women's sport, whereas in the UK we're a bit behind. But since we follow American trends, I'm sure we'll catch up.
Yeah, what do you think, Tony? Are you a boxing fan altogether?
Yes, I am a boxing fan. That was an incredible fight last night. And I don't think we undervalue women's sport, but I do think the women's sport has to be as compelling as the men's sport. I mean, the fight in Madison Square Garden last night was a better fight than the Tyson Fury Dillian White fight. It was just a more evenly contested battle. Next month is Wimbledon. The focus is going to be on a teenage female tennis player, Emma Raducanu. She'll get as much attention, more attention than any male tennis player. I think there's a general push to try to make us care too much about women's sport when it's not as compelling as the men's sport. You know, for example, boxing, tennis, athletics, women's sport is at least as interesting as the men. With football, the national game, it's simply not. But you would never get this, the way it's presented. The way women's football is presented in this country is as though it's compelling as Manchester City scrapping for the title with Liverpool. And it's simply not. There's a kind of gender correctness abroad where we're sort of meant to care. And I think it just has to compete on the same level. It has to be that pure human drama that you saw in Madison Square Garden, that you're going to see on the centre court at Wimbledon, that you see at women's Olympics, the athletics, track and field. So I think it's not undervalued.
Ebony, do you think that the way the media report women's sport is different to that of the male game?
No, I think that I don't think so. I do believe that there's a big push in it at the moment, and like it was just said, you know, some things I think it's a bit skewed because it's true. Not all women's sport is as compelling as the men, and I think there is a big push to try and make everyone believe it is. But I mean, we have to take it at face value, and we are working really hard to. But just like not all sport is as compelling as other sport. Not all male football teams are as compelling as other male football teams. Do you know what I mean? It's like you got the Premier League and then you got the lower leagues. Like they're just not as the same, you know. But I think it just depends on the sport. And I also believe, just I'm going what Alice was saying, I believe, especially for boxing, the UK is thriving for women's boxing. It is right up there when you compare it to America. America is so far behind when it comes to female boxing, especially even Australia. I'm Australian, it's so far behind. So I have to, you know, give a lot of credit to the British public who have really embraced women's boxing. And that's why you see me, an Australian, pretty much relocating to the UK and fighting in the UK, being a female, as well as other Australians. Do you know what I mean? Because it really is thriving in the UK. So I just wanted to point that out there. But yeah, I think, you know, it's something that takes time. Women's sport, I think it is on the rise. And I think it's something that's going to take time to really, for the public to embrace it. And also us as athletes, we have to keep performing. We have to keep putting on shows. We have to keep working hard, you know, to keep the interest.
Yeah, of course. You've earned the title, the Blonde Bomber, and it's not an accident. You did lose narrowly to Sharon Courtenay. Do you fancy a rematch on that one?
Yeah, look, you know, that's a fight that it's huge. You know, the whole world was watching onto that fight, and everyone wants that fight. I would like to have that fight, as I would like to get my redemption, as I believe that I beat her the second time, and I didn't really think I lost the first time. But so I would like to have that fight. But the reality is that she doesn't have a belt anymore. I'm the world champion. When she had the belt, she didn't want to give me the second chance. And you know, with boxing, it is a business, and you also have to think about you know, when you want to be like, it's like giving opportunities. But you know, I'm the A side. You know what I mean? And really for me to go, okay, Shannon, let's go. I'll give you a big payday. I'll give you a shot at the belt. You know, doesn't really work like that. I think she's going to have to work towards it. Hopefully, get her own belt. You know, and then that will be a huge fight. You know, me and my mate Shannon Courtenay, us fighting to unify. Now that's a fight. You know, but until she has a belt, I think she's going to have to go back at the back of the line, because at the moment I have literally everyone and anyone wanting to fight me of all weight classes, because I'm the big target, because of obviously, you know, the exposure you get from fighting, you know, me, and the fact that I have a belt. So yeah, I think she's going to be in the back of the line until she has something else to offer me.
You said that you've had to battle against a prejudice that because you haven't got, you know, a broken nose and cauliflower ears, that you're not tough. Well, you've demonstrated that you are in the ring. Does it work the other way? Are there some that have said that boxing is unladylike? Do you ever find it hard to integrate back into being a girl?
No, I don't. No. But you are right. There are people that think, obviously, but you're a girl, or girls shouldn't fight, or you're too pretty to fight. But these are old school, you know what I mean? And people like me that have come on the scene and just said, no, you know what? I'm going to embrace my femininity. I'm not going to go to the trends. I'm not going to be like everyone else. And I took a lot of bullets. I took a lot of hate and a lot of discrimination, you know, so that other women can come up and be feminine and embrace their femininity, who they were scared to do it before because of the attacks. Because I got attacked a lot, you know, and I've really had to work hard, and I feel like I've paved a bit of a way for other females that are similar to me that want to be feminine, are feminine, and, you know, don't think that they have to downplay their femininity to be a part of a man's world. You know, I have no problem being part of a man's world or a man's dominated sport, but I want to be a woman in it. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to be a female and not be judged and say that, well, just because of this and that I mustn't be good. You know, and it's obviously in sport, but it's also in business as well. And, you know, you see CEOs who are feminine and very pretty, you know, they just get discredit for why they're up at the top and, you know, oh, they must have been doing something to get there. Like, it's not that they're smart or they're great at what they do. You know, it's always like, oh, it must be because they're pretty, it must be because they know that person or they're doing this, you know, and this is something that I think needs to be broken in society. And I think that was a bit of my unseen mission when I started, when I realized that I was getting all the discrimination and the attacks because of my femininity and my, you know, beauty. And I think it became like, okay, well, I'm going to prove, I'm going to show, and I'm going to set this path that you can do it, you know, because I knew I could. And I see it a lot more. There are a lot more women in boxing and in sport in general. You know, it's changing, you know, because you need people like me and people that show you little girls, you know, the little girls that, hey, you know what, you don't have to be masculine, you don't have to be boy, you don't have to be, you know, rough and you know, whatever, to be into sport, or to you know, obviously I'm a mathematics teacher, I've got degrees in maths, be smart in maths, or to be high up in a job. Do you know what I mean? You can be feminine, you can do it all, and I think women like me show that to the little girls, you know. So not that others didn't either, but I think it's important to have all looks and show the diversity, you know. We're not all the same.
Ben Afwedu, you're also too pretty to go into the ring, aren't you?
I wish that were true. I was going to go into the ring when I was really, really young. There used to be a boxing promoter called Ambrose Mendy who used to train Nigel Benn, and he saw me and my friend messing around at a wedding. He said, "For a big guy, you're really fast. Have you ever considered boxing?" And I went to a couple of training sessions, but my mum didn't like it, so I didn't end up doing it. So it's just one of those things. I ended up being a singer instead.
Well, that's good. Boxing's loss was music's gain. Ebony Bridges, what a joy and a privilege to have you on the show. Congratulations on everything you've achieved, and we can't wait for the next big fight.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Brilliant stuff. And now that you're currently UK-based, we'd love to have you in the studio on our panel, because I know my viewers would love to hear more from you. The emails are already flooding in. Ebony Bridges there you go, a world champion in women's boxing. A very talented Australian she is. Fantastic stuff. What should we do next, folks? Do you fancy a little bit of striking, Tom? Yeah, let's jump into that. The National Union of Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers are planning Extinction Rebellion-style strike action that it says will cause summer travel chaos. It's all because of a row over jobs and pay, with one senior union figure saying it's preparing for civil disobedience. If RMT's 40,000 members vote in favour of strike action, it will bring 15 train services to a grinding halt. So are they right to take action, or are they just plain selfish? What do you think about this, Ben?
I think the striking thing is kind of hard, because I think that you get so much public compassion for what you're doing, and the people sort of get down with you and they say, yeah, you do need to be paid more and stuff. And then you go and interrupt the whole of their day. So no one can go to work and no one can do anything, like with Extinction Rebellion and stuff like that. So they're trying to make their point, but making it so brutally and bringing the country to a standstill. And that's what a lot of these things do. You know, in Great Britain, if it's too much rain, it comes to a standstill. If it's sunny, it's a standstill. If it's snowing, it's a standstill. We're a standstill type of country.
Standstill Britain.
Yeah, literally. And I just think that, you know, I think maybe strike, you know, if they strike a couple of days, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to lose all public support, and that's going to be a sad thing.
Well, that's right, and especially with a national debt in excess of £2 trillion. The Treasury printed £500 billion over the last 2 years.
Yes.
Isn't it a case of, guys, read the room? We can't afford this at the moment.
I think, yeah, but I don't know. I think that they are passionate and they think that if they don't do it, they say, we know it's affecting us, but if we don't do it, we're never going to get what we need to carry on. It's a bit of a joke. So it's kind of hard, but the striking thing, I don't know, man. It's kind of selfish for me because it's not me that's having to complain, do you know what I mean?
And I'm sure they feel that they have a cause.
Yeah.
But Alice, I just think now is not the time. With the country recovering from what was the biggest economic shock since the Second World War.
Yes, no, you're very right of the fact that we simply can't afford this as a nation. But also, I think this kind of Extinction Rebellion type, the influence this has had now on many different protests and now the strike just goes to show the real consequences of a lack of effective policing when it came to the
and tolerating this civil disobedience. I mean, it's one thing to legally strike, but they're talking about blocking roads and causing disruption.
This is exactly what happens when you have double standards in policing, which we've seen over the last couple of years, whether it was, you know, with protests that are left-wing, that are given more lenience by Sadiq Khan here in London, and it's just unbelievable. And we really ought to crack down on any behaviour which is just ultimately going to further impoverish the public.
Tony, in your brilliant Sun column, will you be writing about a summer of discontent?
Yeah, I'll be recommending they go full Extinction Rebellion and glue themselves to railway lines, you know, and glue themselves to the fast lane and the M25. Just turn that Extinction Rebellion mode all the way up to 10. Yeah, I think, you know, anybody that glues themselves to anything, just leave them there. Just leave them there. Go and catch some burglars.
There is a procedure, a process by which you can legally strike, but this civil disobedience, it's deeply anti-democratic, isn't it?
And just keep the British people on your side. You know, make your case for better working conditions, more money. I mean, I think that, you know, since the pandemic, there's a kind of torpor has settled across the country, and a lot of people just don't want to work. They really just don't want to work. You know, they just think, well, back in the office, what? Take off my gym jams. You know, it's, you know, that's violating my human rights. You know, there's a post-pandemic torpor, and we're not going to snap out of it with Jacob Rees-Mogg leaving sarcastic comments. It's not enough, you know. We just got to get back to work, all of us. And yes, but and you know, it's laughable the idea that, you know, saving the planet is the most noble and best cause in the world, and Extinction Rebellion gives it a bad name.
Yeah, too right. Yeah, talk about losing the room, losing the dressing room, indeed. Fascinating stuff. Lots more to come, including another great British game show based around dodgy court caricatures and pictures. You're going to love that one. And also, we've got more of our news agenda as well. And we'll clean up a few last selfies. In fact, don't send any more because we've got more than we could possibly accommodate in the next 15 minutes, but thank you for them. They're amazing. mark@gbnews.uk has been our email address. In fact, do you want a couple of selfies now? OK, we'll do those straight after this. See you in 2.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Lots more selfies coming in. Let's catch up. This is Alan's house bunnies, Binky and Nibbles. Gorgeous. Look at that. They're very comfortable on that rug, aren't they? We also have Spencer here, a photo of his growler. We're celebrating Growlergate today with pictures of your dogs and cats. What a handsome devil. We've also got Simon. Oh, no, we've had Simon there. This is David and his pussy Archie. Lovely job. What a gorgeous pair. Not sure about that shirt I'm wearing. How about Derek? Here comes Derek. Derek, thank you for watching the show. We've also got Oliver the cat, looking resplendent and half asleep. And here's lovely Milo and Mimi.
Oh my gosh.
Gorgeous. Oh, not only do we have so many great viewers, but we've got so many cats and dogs watching the show as well. Thank you so much for sending those in. Brilliant stuff. Listen, we'll get some more of those selfies out in a week's time. Thank you for that. Now, a new book by 4 female academics has claimed that women are spending 200 hours more a year doing so-called office housework. That's right, office housework, more so than men. The book, entitled No Club, Putting a Stop to Women's Dead-End Work, says that women in the workplace are expected to do more non-promotable tasks than their male counterparts, such as fetching coffee, training junior staff and organising leaving dues. So is it a painful reality that men are simply lazier than women? Do you recognise this, Alice, the idea of office housework?
Not really. I mean, I'm sure there's another side to this as well, perhaps. I mean, I'd like to know if perhaps there are jobs that men are doing which are, being
I'd love to know what they
omitted.
are. Because here at the office at GB News, the women are a lot tidier than the men, let me tell you, including presenters.
Once my folder was called like a boys because I'm very messy myself.
I see. Oh, well, that's unusual. You're bucking the trend. Certainly here at the GB News kitchen, Tony Parsons, it's the blokes that leave a half-eaten chicken masala by the sink.
I don't really recognise it. It sounds like these American academics or authors or whatever they are sound as though they're talking about 1955. It seems like some kind of madman fantasy, where I don't know, not in the world that I inhabit.
Each to their own, Clean your plate, clean your mug. Don't complain. Just do it.
I think the way the cleanliness is definitely what's going on in your mind. If you live in like a messy surrounding, usually your mind's messy.
Yes.
And I think if it's like a clean surrounding and you're quite together, your mind is quite together. I think if you've got quite a together mind, you can't live in chaos. Yeah. So I just think
I disagree. I'm put together and I'm very messy. I'm both at the same time.
Don't you find women are generally a bit more conscientious, though? And they dot their I's and cross their T's? Because that's the ultimate question. There's an impression, we discussed it before the show, that men are just a bit lazier than women. That women get things done.
That's unfair,
don't you think women are life's doers, Tony? Is it because they have to bear children?
I just read this book about fishermen in Cornwall, and there was it's written by a woman author, and she said that on the boat she had to lift the seat up in the toilet when she left it. So I think men are messier. I think we're quite a dirty country. Actually, I think in Japan, children clean their schools. People clean the children. Primary school children clean their schools and clean, and there's no shame there's a pride in your surroundings, and I think we lack that as a country. We lack that pride in our surroundings and seeing it as a glorious thing.
Polish your shoes, iron your shirt.
Do you remember when
make your bed?
Yeah,
belt and braces Britain, that's what we need. Belt and braces. We need a bit more proper.
Yeah. No, I just remember when we were younger, when I was younger, at my age now, I remember the streets were always littered with dog's poo. And it was so bad, it used to turn white.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
That's
years.
so great.
It was
Yeah, I
terrible.
don't remember people picking it up. I don't remember the vogue
Well,
for
it
poo
turned
bags
into dust
back
when you picked it up, didn't it, when it was grey?
Yeah.
Terrible. So, I mean, sorry to put anyone off their food who's eating right now.
There you go. Right, well, but very briefly, who's tidier in the house, you or Vanessa?
No, Vanessa's extremely tidy, I must admit.
There you go, you see, she's a hard act to follow. Speaking of which, it would be hard not to notice that tennis ace Boris Becker is now sadly in prison for 2.5 years because of fraud. The most shocking thing about the case was this rather bizarre courtroom sketch of the former Wimbledon champion. That's unrecognisable, isn't
Donald
it?
Trump.
But it is by no means the only bad courtroom sketch of a celebrity. Can you guess who these others are? Let's play a game of Caught in the Act. And we'll start with this celebrity. Who could this be? She's a singer. She's American.
Is that Taylor Swift?
It's not. It's Swift is the right answer.
Oh, right, yeah.
But it's not great. Not a great one. She's going to hate that sketch, hey? Who is it next? There she is in real life. Who's our next celebrity? Who could this be?
Oh, it's Gary Glitter.
Yeah, Gary.
It is.
All day.
The sparkle has definitely gone from that guy. Yeah. How about our next celebrity? Who could this be in a court of law?
Is it Victoria?
Rihanna?
It is Rihanna. Well done.
Really? Goodness.
As interpreted by a toddler, by the looks of it. OK, how about this warbler? Who could this be? I think you'll know by the barnet.
Oh, it's
Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, she puts her dancing shoes on for the court. How about this billionaire family? Who could they be? Stars of reality TV.
Kardashians.
It is the Kardashians, but they've not even got Kim's bum right, have they?
Yeah, it doesn't look anything like... Oh, you can tell by Chris, the mum.
Maybe you can see from mum.
hair, yeah.
That's bad enough to sue, isn't it? Yeah. OK, how about this former comedian?
It was more like Winston Churchill, a black Winston Churchill. I don't know.
Famous sitcom, an eponymous
Bill Cosby.
sitcom. Yes, The Cosby Show. Bill Cosby. Yeah. How about this rather fragrant lady?
Oh, Nigella...
Nigella Lawson.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure Nigella would recognise that, but it is the brilliant cook, Nigella Lawson.
Yeah.
OK, how about this Hollywood icon? Who could this be?
Steven Spielberg.
It is Spielberg, that's right. It's quite a decent sketch, that one, isn't it? Just 2 more to go. Back to the world of celebrity. Who's that? Looks a bit like Ebony, doesn't it? But it's not.
Maybe Paris Hilton? I'm not sure.
No. It is Paris Hilton.
It is actually.
Oh, wow. It's never been Paris Hilton.
I didn't know how I got that.
So hashtag fat Paris Hilton. And last but not least, keep your hair on. Who's this?
Elton John.
There you go. He's still standing. He's still sketching.
That's the best I've seen him.
There he is, Reg White. Brilliant stuff. Sincere thanks to my fantastic panel. Most importantly, to you for your company. It's been an amazing weekend. Well done to Tom and the team for working so hard this weekend. We're back on Friday at 9 p.m. Dan's back on Monday at 9. And I'm sticking around for headliners. See you after the news.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking cloudy and in some places rather misty, with patchy light rain in the south and the southwest. Let's take a look at the detail. So a cloudy start then in the southwest, with patchy mist and hill fog for some. Some patchy light rain too, or drizzle possible, mainly in the east. The southeast mostly dry, with bright or sunny spells towards the northeast. Cloudier to the southwest, a little rain possible as well. South Wales will have a cloudy, murky and damp start. There'll be low cloud and hill fog with some patchy light rain too. It'll be a cloudy, rather murky but mostly dry start across the northwest of England. Some patchy mist and hill fog likely, but it will soon brighten up. The northeast of England will also have a mostly cloudy start to the bank holiday, a little mist and a little hill fog too, but the clouds steadily lifting from the north. Then there'll be a brighter start to the bank holiday across southern Scotland. It'll be dry with early bright or sunny spells developing widely, winds fairly light as well. Cloudier in Northern Ireland, a few bright or sunny spells in places, although the odd light shower is possible first thing. Most will be dry. And gradually turning drier and brighter through the day with sunny spells and a few mostly light showers developing, feeling rather warm too. And that's how the weather's shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.